Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again, this time around, the Diofield Chronicle demo review for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC, for a game that is tentatively to be released on September 22nd, 2022. The Diofield Chronicle is a co-developed game by Square Enix and Landcars, and it is a real-time strategy turn-based RPG. Now, even though this is a Square Enix game and the general aesthetics and character models in terms of the animation, not necessarily the in-game models, I will definitely talk about that later, are very reminiscent of, say, Final Fantasy Tactics and some of the more grandiose MMOs from Final Fantasy, be it Final Fantasy 11 or Final Fantasy 14. But the gameplay is actually closer to something like XCOM or Ogre Battle or even Fire Emblem, where you take a cast of characters, you can only have 4 characters on your team at a time, and take them onto the battlefield. Now, when you have them attack, they attack automatically when they're in range of an enemy or when you designate a specific enemy for them to attack. Now, the only time that the battle does pause is when you decide to move that character or issue a command, such as utilizing one of the character's special attacks that takes up EP, very similar to MP in other RPGs, or moving that character to a different area, or say utilizing an item. Now, one of the more interesting aspects is that you can actually stack those special attacks by attaching one character to another via the main menu. Of course, like any of these type of games, be it RPGs or strategy games, there is a lot to handle and manage at a time, specifically trying to take care of your health of your characters, potentially capturing certain zones that can be utilized to not only unlock certain parts of the map or the battlefield, but also to, say, turn a turret against the enemy. And to me, one of the biggest faults of the game in general when it comes to the gameplay is just realizing if your character is attacking or not, because some of the functionality problems when it comes to the gameplay is rooted in the fact that the game is not very static. And by that I mean, when you're trying to, say, focus on one character, the game has a tendency of switching to another character so you can move that character instead, which is very odd because you will scroll and actually highlight the character you intend to either move or attack with, and then when you hit the select button, it will actually switch to another character that is closer to that enemy, even if it means that that's not what you had in mind, that's not your strategy. Because there are certain elements that you can utilize to your advantage, like ambushes, pincer attacks, by positioning your characters in a certain way. And the game will sometimes try to be almost auto-helpful and not realize that I want to do this manually. There are also summon attacks, which I did not expect. One of the ones that you see very early in the demo is Bahamut, that as you defeat enemies during a battle, you will fill up a meter on the right hand side of the screen, and once that meter is filled, you can actually utilize summon attacks that do incredible damage beyond the fact that it looks very cool when it happens. Now, another interesting aspect when it comes to the gameplay is stipulations. Now, certain stipulations are pretty obvious, like keeping your team alive, but there are other stipulations that can really put some crunch to a battle, like defeating all the enemies in 4 minutes, and for yours truly actually getting it done in 4 minutes and 29 seconds. So there are some interesting stipulations that I've seen thus far in the demo that hopefully will expand when you play the full game. Now, when it comes to the story, thus far, it is very much par of the course. You have one empire now feuding with another, with one, of course, being portrayed as the evil empire that wants to conquer everything, and you have to put a stop to it. Now, it doesn't take long before they throw a lot of lingo, a lot of lore, and a lot of names your way, so you have to be on your toes if you actually care about the story and pay attention to everything that's being thrown at you at a breakneck pace when it comes to just the first chapter alone. But from an aesthetic perspective, beyond the very incredible still images that you have voiceovers with, are the in-game models that are stiff look very 7th gen and do not inspire much to look at. And that is complemented by the actual interior environments that are bare bones as bare bones can be. It is definitely uninspired and something that it feels like it was unnecessary. It feels like just exploration for exploration's sake. It's very similar to what they did with Stranger of Paradise, where they gave you these little hubs to talk to people, but it's very low end. It doesn't have the same grandiose nature of the actual battlefields when you're playing the game, and it actually looks pretty good. Technically, I didn't have any problems in this demo. Beyond some of the aforementioned gameplay issues, I didn't have any hard crashes or technical glitches that would make me worried about the outcome of this game when it's fully released. Overall, the Diofield Chronicle demo actually did a very good job of not only enlightening me about a game that I really didn't know about, but also got me excited about it. I am a fan of these type of games and have been kind of craving one, a new one at least, for quite a while. So I'm intrigued to see how this pans out, if it's a lot better overall, if they expand upon the gameplay a lot more than what I see in the demo, which I fully expect. And hopefully the story isn't as rudimentary and mundane as you would expect from this type of game. I definitely suggest that if you're into these real-time strategy games like this, like say XCOM, like Ogre Battle, or Fire Emblem, give this demo a try. It's on almost everything you can think of, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised from a gameplay perspective, maybe not necessarily from the characters or the story thus far. So there you have it. This has been Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again, the Diofield Chronicle demo review for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, for a game that is tentatively going to be released on September 22nd, 2022. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go check the shop for the latest inventory so I can get ready for my latest fight. And I have to beat my old time because 429 just isn't good enough. And I'm going to make those dastardly bandits say, "Oh, Lordy."